Hello everybody, welcome back. Whew. Online grammar. This is going to be great. Okay, take a deep breath. Get excited. We're going to have a great time. We're going to be talking about conditionals. Okay, conditionals mean if then. So like if it rains, you'll get wet. That is a conditional. Now, let's get going. Remember to take notes because we are going to be having quizzes. You can't use your notes for the quizzes, but we know that if you write things down, you are able to remember them better. Right, what are conditionals? Conditionals are sometimes called if clauses. They describe the result of something that might happen in the present or the future, or might have happened but didn't in the past. And we use if, and we don't usually say then, but the then is implied. We're thinking it. How do conditionals work in English? That is what we're going to talk about today. There are two kinds of conditionals in English. They are the real and the unreal. Real means possible or factual. And number two is like imagination. It's unreal, impossible, or fictional. Because we like to imagine what might be, then we like to use conditionals. So, some are real and some are unreal or not possible. For the first one, the real ones, we have the present real, if you heat water it boils. The past real, if I worked hard, I passed my test. And the future real, if it rains, we'll get wet. For the unreal, we have the present or future unreal. If I won $1 million, I would travel around the world. And the past unreal, if I had saved more money, I would have been able to buy a car. Those are the conditionals we are going to cover. Now, it's all about what the person is thinking. If we are talking about the real ones, then the person is thinking, I think this will happen, or this did happen for sure. And if we're talking about the unreal, then it's probably, I think this probably won't happen, or didn't happen in the past. How do conditionals work in English? Let's talk about it. Here is the present real. If I exercise, I feel great. We say this when we think it's always true. This always happens. If I exercise, I feel great. Look at the tenses. If I exercise is a present tense, and I feel is also a present tense. So we have two present tenses that tell us this always happens. Now that's cool because we know if I say, for example, the sun comes up every morning, you know that present tense tells you it's a routine and it happens all the time. This is the same with this conditional. It's used for a general rule. Notice the negative. If I don't exercise, I don't feel great. And you can flip those two clauses. The if and the then clause can flip. I feel great if I exercise. If I exercise, what happens is the question. Or again, the flip. What happens if I exercise? When you have the if clause, then you will see the comma. If the if clause is first, there's a comma. If there's if clause is second, there's no comma. Remember, this always happens, and we can change out if for when. If you heat water, it boils. When you heat water, it boils. Water boils if you heat it. The street gets wet whenever it rains. So, when, if, whenever, it's a general rule. Now, let's talk about the past. This always happens in the past. If there was a storm when I was young, I cried. We're talking about the past. If there was a storm, I cried. Okay. If plus the past and the past verb. Now, this is also a general rule, but because both of them are in the past, we're talking about something that happened in the past, but probably doesn't happen now. If I say this sentence, if there was a storm, I cried, you will think she doesn't cry anymore. If there was a storm, I cried. If it was sunny, I didn't cry. Notice the negative. I didn't cry if it was sunny. If it was sunny, what did you do? There's the question. What did you do if it was sunny? We use these two pasts, if we're talking about things that happened in the past, but probably don't happen anymore. For example, in the old days, when women went out, they always wore a kimono or yukata. It's not true anymore, right? Whenever a woman got married, she quit her job. Or in the old days, if a woman was pregnant, she gave birth at home. This is in the past, not true anymore. Notice when, whenever, and if we can use interchangeably with if. Right. Now let's talk about the future real. This is talking about the future, and it's a possible thing. So it's a real possible future. The sky looks dark. If it rains, we'll get wet. Notice we have the present, but now there's a switch. This is in the future, and we're talking about the future, so that's cool. If it rains, we'll get wet. Is it raining now? No. We're imagining a possible future. It might rain. If it will rain, we'll get wet. That is wrong. We never have will in the if clause. If it doesn't rain, we won't get wet. There's the negative. And it's good. Remember, the sky looks dark. If it rains, we'll get wet. We can also say, if it rains, we're gonna get wet. Both of these are future, and both of these are possible. They are correct here. We can also use modals. If it rains, we'll probably get wet. If it rains, we might get wet. We should call a taxi. We can't go. We could get wet. Or we can use an imperative. If it rains, call me. That's what your mom says. These are all modals, and those are the imperative. These are all good sentences. Now, let's practice a little, but first, let's meet Aoi. She is talking about a real possible future. This is Aoi. She is an optimist. Okay? An optimist is a person who thinks many things are possible in the future. Good things are possible in the future. She is an optimist. She's a sophomore at MWU. She's studying English because she wants to get a good job in the future. What does she imagine will happen in the future? First, she'll get a good job. If I get a good job, she says, oh my gosh, I'm in her way. Let's go up here. Right. If I get a good job, she is imagining her future. What does she say? If I get a good job, I'll make a lot of money. If she makes a lot of money, what will happen? If I make a lot of money, I'll go to sing karaoke every night. Nice. Now it's your turn. Look at these and make sentences. Okay, let's check your answers. If I go to sing karaoke every night, I might meet a cute boy. If I meet a cute boy, we'll probably fall in love. If we fall in love, we'll get married. And if we get married, we'll be really, really happy. Notice Aoi is thinking everything is possible and everything is good. So she uses the future real, which is the if plus the present, and then will or going to. Nice. Practice again and fill in these sentences. And let's check your answers. If Aoi gets a good job, she'll make a lot of money. If she makes a lot of money, she will go out and sing karaoke every night. If Aoi does that, she might meet a cute guy. If she asks him out, they may fall in love. And if they fall in love, they will probably get married. And then they will live happily ever after. Yay! Okay, remember, she thinks this is possible. Does Aoi have a good job now? Is Aoi married now? Is this for sure? Let's check. She does not have a good job now. She's a student. Is she married? No. Is this for sure? No, but she's imagining what she thinks is possible in her future. Nice. Nice to meet you, Aoi. If we think something is 100% possible, 0% possible, the conditionals are going to appear along this line. She thinks this is not 100%, but possible. She thinks this is possible, so she uses the future real. Now, we talked about the present real, the past real, and the future real. These sentences are all correct. And now, let's practice again. Read the sentences carefully. Fill in the blanks with the correct verb forms. You'll find the verbs after the blanks. Let's check your answers. If I fly on a plane, I always get a headache. What do you do if you have a headache? This is present and present because we're talking about something that's always true. When my husband was a kid, they didn't have computers. If he wanted to do research, he had to go to a library. This was true in the past and probably isn't true now, so both verbs are in the past. Where do you want to go today? Canada. Canada is not far away. If you drive north from Spokane for 2.5 hours, you will get to Canada. This is the future real. We're talking about a place that they want to go to, and it's possible to go to. So, we use the present and the future. Right, let's continue and talk about unreal or imaginative conditionals. What's this? A lottery ticket? Wow! She is dreaming about this lottery. This is Hanako. She's a realist. She's dreaming about her future. She works hard, but she doesn't have a lot of money. She really wants to travel, but it's way too expensive. She's thinking about buying a lottery ticket. What are the chances of winning the lottery? Not very good, right? 1 in 300 million. Remember, it says Hanako is a realist. She is not like Aoi. She's not an optimist. She knows that this is not possible. What are the chances of winning the lottery? They are just not, oh, boom. They're not very good. They're not 0, but they're not very good. So she uses the unreal future. If I won the lottery, I would be rich. If I won the lottery, I would travel around the world. Unreal present or unreal future. If I won the lottery, I would travel around the world is a past tense verb plus would plus the verb. Right. Or D, would, I'd travel. if I won the lottery, I'd travel around the world. Remember, this probably will not happen in the future. The unreal present is used for dreams, wishes, untrue or unreal events now or in the future. If I won the lottery, I would travel around the world. Is Hanako rich now? Is she going to be rich in the future? Is this for sure? Answer these questions. Is Hanako rich now? No, she doesn't have a lot of money. Is she going to be rich in the future? Maybe, maybe not. Is this for sure? No, she's imagining what she thinks will probably not happen in her future. Remember, past tense verb, but what? What? Why is this in the past tense? That's crazy. The past tense to talk about the present or the future? It might look like the past tense, but it's not the past tense. It's telling you that the speaker thinks it's not possible. So, if it's in the present tense, we think it's close to us. But if it's in the past tense, it's farther away, and that shows it's less possible. So, past tense. You just have to remember, it's not the past. It's just less possible. Negative? If I didn't win, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be poor if I won the lottery. There we have those flipped, the clauses. What would you do if you won the lottery? If you won the lottery, what would you do? Notice no commas if is in the second clause. Okay. Here's another way to use this unreal present, to say, if I were you. If I, Bridget, or not Bridget, but if I or you, if we switched places, this is what I would do. This is one way to give advice. If I were in your position, if we changed places, if I were you, am I you? No, of course not. But we're talking about what will not happen in the future. It's just a weird way to give advice. If I were you, I'd do your homework on time. Advice. I'd watch movies in English if I were you. Notice we're using the same tenses, would plus the verb, and here, past tense. If I were you, I'd, if I were you. Advice. Right, again with the comma. Now, look at this. This is correct, but why? Why do we say were and not was? Usually we say, I was happy. Why do we say, if I were you? It's again that thing of being in a different place, kind of pulled away from that. If I were you, just remember this phrase, if I were you, if I were you, if I were you. Repeat that phrase. It's another way of saying, you should do this. But you say, if I were you, I would do this. Now, English is changing. So, you will hear people say, if I was you. Is that correct? Well, I don't know. It's common. A lot of people say it. But don't say it to the Queen and don't use it on the TOEIC. The TOEIC test always includes something like this. And you have to choose if I were you or if I was you, and was for TOEIC is wrong, although many people say it. Okay, let's practice. You think about it. Is it a real conditional, a real possibility, or an unreal conditional? You practice. Let's check your answers. Here we go. If I don't go to bed soon, I will be tired in the morning. This is a real conditional. Okay, future real. If it doesn't rain for a long time, the earth gets very dry. This is always true. It always happens, right? So two present tenses. If you need a ride, give me a call and I will come and get you. Give me is the imperative, and this is the promise, I will come. Okay, it's a future real. Do you need help with your homework? I can't help you, but I can give you some advice. If I were you, I'd ask your teacher for help. Remember, was is possible here, but strictly it's not correct. If our grammar teacher gives us a lot of homework this weekend, I won't be happy. Future real. If I had more time, I'd exercise more, but I'm too busy. This "but I'm too busy" means it's not possible. So here we have the unreal present. Take a deep breath. Okay, let's practice some more. Here's a question for you. Are you a good student? What does it mean to be a good student? What does a good student do? I want you to meet a friend of mine. Her name is Ichika. Here she is. Wow, check it out. Does Ichika look like a good student? Uh-oh, check out her report card. She maybe is not studying enough. Oh, look at what she eats. That's not very healthy. Oh dear, that's not very healthy either. Ichika spends a lot of time in the pachinko parlor and out with her friends, and she doesn't get enough sleep. Oh no. Is Ichika a good student? She's going to go and see her teacher. Here is her teacher. Her teacher says, Ichika, if... Fill in the blanks with the advice and the information that her teacher gives to her. Let's check your answers. What does the teacher say? Ichika, if you don't work harder, you might fail your classes. She's using the real, possible future. You really need to work harder, and you should go to bed earlier. If you don't get enough sleep, you won't be able to get good grades. Future real. If I were you, there's advice. I would stop playing pachinko. When you are giving advice, you use the unreal future. If plus the past, would plus the verb. I don't think you'll listen to me, but I think that if you worked harder, you would pass your class. I don't think you'll listen to me shows you that she's thinking this is not possible. So, unreal future. If plus the past, would plus the verb. What's this? Is that Ichika? What? What happened? Ichika listened to her teacher's advice. She started eating healthy food. She stopped playing pachinko. She got enough sleep. She worked hard. She studied every day. She graduated with a degree in English. Ichika, congratulations. That's great. This is what happened. But if she hadn't listened to her teacher, she'd have failed. Now we're talking about the unreal past. The unreal past is something that didn't happen in the past. Past perfect is had plus the past participle. If she hadn't listened to her teacher, she would have failed. She'd have failed. But she did listen to her teacher. So we're thinking about a past that didn't happen. We're imagining something that did not happen in the past. Did Ichika listen to her teacher? Yes, she did. Did she fail? No, she didn't. Yay, Ichika. We're imagining what did not happen in the past. We call this the unreal past. Now, pronunciation. We're getting a lot of verbs in there, and the auxiliary verbs, as you know, are usually reduced in English, and the main verbs are usually stressed. Negatives are short, but they're stressed. Find the main verbs, the auxiliary verbs, and the negatives in these sentences. Right, let's check. Here are the negatives. There's a negative, and there's a negative. Okay, and the main verbs, yay. Graduated, studied, gone, done, voted, married. Good. Right, now notice what happens. I want you to listen to this audio and notice the pronunciation of these conditional phrases. First, here is the slow pronunciation.
If she had not studied enough, she would not have graduated. I would have gone to the gym if I had already done my homework. If he had not voted for Joe Biden, she would not have married him.
Now, let's listen again. Notice what happens when it's normal speed. What happens, as you listen to the audio, you'll see, hadn't. We say, if she hadn't studied enough, she wouldn't have graduated. Would not have becomes wouldn't have. Repeat after me, wouldn't have. Notice for would, your lips are sticking out. Wouldn't have. She wouldn't have graduated.
If she hadn't studied enough, she wouldn't have graduated. I'd have gone to the gym if I'd already done my homework. If he hadn't voted for Joe Biden, she wouldn't have married him.
Pay attention to the intonation here. If she hadn't studied enough, she wouldn't have graduated. We are going to have a stress on a negative and a stress on the main verb. Negative, main verb. If she hadn't studied enough, she wouldn't have graduated. Here, instead of would have, we just say d've. I'd have. I'd have gone to the gym. Okay. There we're going to stress. Now this is not a negative, so we don't stress it. I'd have gone to the gym if I'd already done my homework. If I'd already done my homework. I'd have gone to the gym if I'd already done my homework. And this one, again, wouldn't have. If he hadn't voted for Joe Biden, she wouldn't have married him. If he hadn't voted for Joe Biden, she wouldn't have married him. Stress. Here's the one I want you to focus on. Would not have becomes wouldn't have. Would have becomes d've. I'd have, she'd have, they'd have.
If she hadn't studied enough, she wouldn't have graduated. I'd have gone to the gym if I'd already done my homework. If he hadn't voted for Joe Biden, she wouldn't have married him.
What's this? Ichika. She did so well. What does her teacher say now to Ichika? Ichika, who changed her life, and she looked like she wasn't going to graduate, and then she changed her life, and now she has graduated. She sees her teacher. Her teacher is so proud of her. What does she say? Here's what she says. Ichika, I'm so proud of you. You worked hard. If you hadn't worked hard, you wouldn't have passed your classes. Wouldn't have. Repeat. Wouldn't have. Good. This is the unreal past. Remember, she did pass. So we're thinking about something that didn't happen. So we use had plus the past participle and would have plus the past participle. If you hadn't done well in your classes, you would have had to drop out of school. But you stopped playing pachinko and you got enough sleep. That's great. I'm so glad you started to eat healthy food. These are in the past tense because there's no if here. Be careful. Now, if you hadn't made changes in your lifestyle, you wouldn't have graduated. Right now, are you looking for a job? Right now tells you it's going to be the present continuous. Okay, here are the conditionals again. Remember, this always happens, the present real. This is when we're thinking that something is possible. Okay? It's possible, and it happens all the time. This will possibly happen in the future. This is the future real. If it rains, we'll get wet. This is real possibility in the future. This will probably not happen in the future. If I won the lottery, am I going to win the lottery? No. So less possible. And finally, something that is impossible. This didn't happen in the past. It's unreal past. If I hadn't done my homework, I wouldn't have passed. Those are the conditionals. Let's look again. Let's review again. Notice these sentences. They are all basically the same. If I have enough time, I go to the gym. It's generally or always true. If I have enough time, I'll go to the gym later. That's the possible present or future. If I had enough time, I'd go to the gym. Now, we're going back to the past, so we're getting further away from what we think is possible. This is not really possible in the present or the future, I think. If I had had enough time, I would have gone to the gym. Impossible or unreal past. Right. Let's talk about some errors, some mistakes that people make. You will see a pair of sentences. One of them is correct, but one of them is not correct. Click on the correct one. For example, if I get that job, I'll earn a lot of money. If I'll get that job, I'll earn a lot of money. Which one is correct? Let's check. A is correct. Why? Because we never have will in the if clause. Now it's your turn. Let's check your answers. A or B? It's A. These shoes don't fit. If they fit, I buy them. Now, it's kind of tricky because fit is the same in the present and the past. Okay? But this one, B, is wrong. If they would fit. The same way we don't have will in the if clause, we don't have would in the if clause. Next one. B is correct. We missed the bus. This is what happened. We wouldn't have missed the bus if we had gotten up earlier. Okay. Try again. Let's check your answers. First one, A. I have a license. If I didn't have a license, I couldn't drive. Okay, but I do. Talking about the present tense, and it's unreal. So this is the present unreal. It's not possible present. If plus the past, would or could. If I didn't have, I couldn't. If COVID weren't so dangerous, we'd be traveling in the US right now. This is true. And it's correct. COVID is dangerous. Present unreal would have traveled in the past, but this says right now. So we're not talking about the past. We're talking about the present. A and B, which is right? It's A. If someone comes in, it's a possible present. If someone comes in, tell them, I'll be right back. If it's possible in the present, we use will in the if clause, in the then clause. Okay, more practice. Yay! We love practice. She'd have had. She'd have had. I see him all the time. Whenever I see him, I say hi. This is true. With that whenever, it's usually true. He will probably not be able to go to Paris this summer. We're thinking about the future, and we're thinking about something that probably won't happen. If he were able to go to Paris, he would eat French bread every day. Was is possible, but... Any questions? Please ask me online. You're doing great. And thank you. And I'll see you next week. Okay? Bye.